All right, welcome. Today, we are diving into some absolutely fascinating material from veterinary pathology. Think of it like this. We're going to solve a series of medical mysteries, and our crime scene is the mouth. I mean, think about it, right? If an animal can't actually tell you what's wrong, where do you even start looking for clues? It feels impossible. But what if I told you the mouth has been talking this whole time? Yep, you heard that right. For a vet, looking inside an animal's mouth isn't just about checking for cavities. It's like opening a window straight into the rest of the body. It can reveal some of the body's biggest secrets. We're talking everything from liver function to the immune system. Okay, so let's kick off our investigation. First up, we're going to look at how problems that are buried deep inside the body can actually send out these little warning signals, clues that show up right inside the mouth. So, here's our first case file. Imagine you've got a dog with chronic diarrhea, just generally not doing well. I mean, that could be 100 different things, right? But one single look inside its mouth can change everything. So what are we looking for? What's the clue? The clue is something called icterus, which you've probably heard of as jaundice, and it's exactly what it sounds like, a yellowing of the gums and other membranes. This happens because a substance called bilirubin is building up in the blood. And let me tell you, finding this is a huge red flag. It immediately points a vet towards one of two serious problems, either major liver failure or something is causing the red blood cells to just get destroyed. And it turns out color is just an unbelievably powerful diagnostic tool. Seriously, a quick peek at the gums can tell a massive story. So if they're really pale, that could signal anemia, maybe from something like hookworms in a puppy. What if they're super bright red? That might point to a rare condition called polycythemia, where there are way too many red blood cells. And if you see a bluish tint, that's cyanosis, that's a really bad sign the body just isn't getting enough oxygen. Okay, on to the next mystery. We've got a cat that's just been off for a while. Again, super vague, right? But then, during the exam, you spot something very specific. Ulcers, right on the sides of its tongue. This pattern is everything. So what's the connection here? Get this. These are called uremic ulcers. What's happening is the kidneys are failing, so toxins are building up like crazy in the blood. The body, desperate to get rid of them, starts pushing them out any way it can, and that includes through the saliva. These toxins are so nasty, they literally burn ulcers into the tongue, right where the saliva comes out. Isn't that incredible? A problem in the kidneys is physically showing up as a wound in the mouth. So we've seen how the mouth can be a messenger, but it's not always just sending signals from other parts of the body. Sometimes the trouble starts right there in the mouth itself. This next one is just heartbreaking, and it's surprisingly common. We've all seen cats go nuts for a piece of string, right? But it can be so dangerous. How on earth can a simple piece of yarn or string actually become fatal? Well, the mechanics of it are terrifyingly simple. So the string gets anchored somewhere. A lot of times it gets wrapped around the base of the tongue. Then the intestines, they just try to do their job, right? They try to move the string along. But since one end is stuck, the intestines just start bunching up on it, kind of like an accordion. And their own natural movement can cause that string to act like a saw and slice right through the intestinal wall. It's horrible. Okay, so the next case from our source material really raises the stakes. We're not talking about a physical danger anymore. We're moving into a biological one, a threat that can actually jump from an animal to a person. And I have to read this quote directly from the pathologist's notes, because it just says it all. It's written in all caps, "Yikes, watch out." Yeah, when a pathologist writes that, you know things just got real. So what was all the fuss about? Simian herpes B virus. And here's the really scary part. In a monkey, this virus just causes these tiny little oral ulcers, kind of like a cold sore in a person. No big deal for them. But if that virus gets transmitted to a human, we're talking something as simple as a splash of saliva to the eye, it can cause a fatal inflammation of the brain. What's a minor inconvenience for one species is a deadly biohazard for another. Just wow. And here's another infectious agent to be aware of. This poor sheep has something called contagious ecthyma, or ORF for short. It's a virus, and it causes these really dramatic, crusty, nasty-looking sores all over the lips and sometimes inside the mouth. It's got to be painful, it's debilitating, and you better believe it's super contagious for the rest of the flock. Okay, for our final section, we're going to shift gears one last time. We've talked infections, we've talked injuries. Now let's talk about our last set of clues. Abnormal growths, lumps and bumps. And these can be anything from inflammation that's just gone haywire all the way to aggressive cancers. So here is a classic case. The common name for it is lumpy jaw, which is, pretty descriptive. You can see the bone of the jaw gets all swollen and hard and deformed. So what's actually causing this? Believe it or not, the culprit is a bacterium called Actinomyces bovis. And here's the twist. This bacteria is a totally normal resident of a cow's mouth. It's supposed to be there. The problem starts when there's a wound, like say the cow chews on a sharp piece of wire in its feed. That wound gives the bacteria an opening to invade deep into the jawbone. And once it's in there, it just causes this massive, destructive, literally bone-eating inflammation. And finally, of course, we have to talk about cancer, or neoplasia. And what vets are on the lookout for really depends on the animal. For cats, a huge concern is something called squamous cell carcinoma. For dogs, on the other hand, the most common malignant or dangerous tumor is malignant melanoma. Now, dogs also get these benign viral warts called papillomas pretty often, especially when they're younger.
So, after going through all these different cases, from hidden diseases to deadly viruses to invasive tumors, what's the big takeaway here? What is the mouth's final message to us?
Well, the main takeaway is this. The mouth is so much more than just a place for chewing food. It's this incredibly dynamic environment, and it's a super sensitive indicator of what's going on in the rest of the body. A really careful look inside can be one of the most powerful tools a vet has. And really, that's what this whole journey has been about, right? It's just such a powerful reminder that in medicine, and maybe in life in general, the biggest clues, the most important answers, are often hiding in plain sight. You just have to know how and where to look. The mouth really does tell a story. So the question is, what should you be looking for? After everything we've seen, what little clues might you start to notice now? Thanks so much for digging into this with me.